For the next speaker, we have with us Professor Lorenzo Cantoni. Let me give a brief introduction of him before starting with the session. Professor Lorenzo Cantoni is full professor at USI, Università della Riserva Italiana in Lugano, Switzerland, at Faculty of Communication, Culture and Society, where he is the director of Institute of Digital Technologies for Communication. He is also the chairholder of UNESCO Chair in ICT to develop and promote sustainable tourism in World Heritage Sites, which was established at USI in 2013. Professor Cantoni has been the Dean of the Faculty from 2010 to 2014 and President of IFITT, International Federation for IT in Travel and Tourism, from 2014 to Jan 2018. His research interests are communication, education, and new media overlap, ranging from computer-mediated communication to usability, from e-learning to e-tourism and digital fashion, from ICT 4D to e-government. The topic for today's discussion will be, for today's session, which will be taken by Professor Cantoni, is Digital Media and Heritage Tourism Experience. Professor Cantoni, most welcome, and I hand over to you for the session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everybody. Really happy and honored to share some reflections with all of you this afternoon. I would love to share a couple of slides, and I'm very happy also to have seen so many good friends and colleagues before, and definitely the presentation by Dimitrios was really helpful to put on the table the issue of how digital media, digital technologies can be used within the tourism experience. I will somehow take a different approach, reflecting first of all on what is an experience. Okay, so it is according to several definitions, is a practical contact with and observation of facts and events. So people being able to touch something, to see something or somebody in person. So if we see the verb is to see, go through, to live, that's very important, living an experience, to have, to receive something, so to get a not mediated knowledge of something, to feel something. So how can we combine experience and culture? So what is culture then? My approach, which is the one we use at the UNESCO Chair in Lugano, is very a wide approach, and we move from the very origin of the term culture, which comes from Latin, and in Latin the verb colo was used at three quite different layers or levels, if you like. The first one is about cultivating the fields. So colo in general meant to look after, to care for something. And so you could look after your physical environment, and that is agriculture. So agros in Latin means field. So the way you cultivate the natural environment. And this has a lot to do with the ecological sustainability. And then we need to cultivate, to look after new generations through education and ourselves. And this is culture the way we usually interpret it. So the way we grow as human beings and the way we make sure that we cultivate all our talents and all our possibilities. But colo was used also in order to cover the very relationship between human beings and God, and that's religion, or like we say, cult. So the way we consider, we have experience of God. And if we think of tourism, of course, in the first layer, we have everything which has to do with natural heritage tourism, with agri-tourism, cultural tourism, of course, tackles the second layer, while pilgrimage or religious tourism is the one which takes into account the third layer of culture or of color. If we think of the overall tourism experience, like we many times approach it, so there is a period or a phase in which we start thinking of the experience, we start dreaming of a place, we start planning and booking and buying the place. And then, of course, there is a phase in which we get there. It might take a few minutes, it might take several hours or even days. And then there is the during experience while we are at the destination itself. And then we call it tourism, meaning that we come back home. When back home, this is the post phase, the phase, for instance, in which we share contents, we publish online travel reviews, etc. And definitely, as Dimitrios has clearly demonstrated, digital technologies are being used and will be used extensively along all those phases. But let's think of the last part of Dimitri's presentation. So at a certain point, due to the pandemic, we started to have this pre-phase, which is becoming pretty long. Okay, so most of destination management and marketing organizations are still telling us, okay, stay at home, stay safe, and sooner or later, hopefully soon, you will be able to travel. Many of us are asking when I will travel. Most of us are hoping that that will happen for sure soon, but when is that soon? Many destinations, if I think of World Heritage sites, many of them have been closed and are still not accessible due to the pandemic. And so will it be a post phase of travels we could not do? So if we think, for instance, of the campaign by My Switzerland, which is the Swiss tourism national office, was exactly Dream Now, Travel Later. Let's see, I'm not sure you hear the sound, but the message was pretty clear. Okay, let's stop here. So after 1 year, people might have started to think, okay, but is this dream becoming a nightmare or not? And so I think we should think of this period, of course, as a period we, all of us, hope that will end very soon, but still is a great opportunity for me to really think in depth of the other phases, especially how digital technologies can be better orchestrated for the pre and the post phase. So far, most of what we were thinking of was just of the during phase, saying, okay, there is the pre and the post, but now we are in the we have been in the pre phase for more than 1 year. And so let's focus on it and say, how can we make the best of it? And how can we learn something which might be useful also for the next developments of tourism? So what we have learned and have been learning in the last year or so is that beats travel a lot. even more and even faster. So like our conversation today. So bits have not been stopped by this pandemic, and they are likely not to be stopped by future pandemics. Atoms travel via e-commerce or through 3D printers. So also atoms objects can be sold, can be bought, can be shared, especially through e-commerce. E-commerce has, and in general, the digital transformation of many sectors have experienced a major quantum leap in the last months. Humans, unfortunately, so far, we cannot move that much. And so we should, especially for cultural tourism, we should really take it seriously and ask ourselves, okay, we can move bits, we can move some types of atoms. How can we start moving them, even if we cannot move people? And in the future, anyway, also in the post phase, how can we extend the experience of travelers also while they are back home? Beyond, I mean, the souvenirs they might have bought at the destination. I must say, I'm focusing on heritage tourism. I must say, this is not the first time this happens. If I think, for instance, of the Christian world, there have been built several holy lands around the globe because it was not easy to travel to Jerusalem for Christians as pilgrims, or it was not safe enough. And so if we think of the rock and churches in Lalibela, for instance, they were called also the New Jerusalem. It's a World Heritage Site, and was a trial to reconstruct a destination for pilgrims within the same country. Or if we think of Sacaimonte in Italy, nearby Switzerland, where I'm living, they did the same later on their mountain. So the idea was, okay, we cannot move people, but we can either reconstruct or get a certain type of experience before we can get the original one, or we can travel to the destination. For many of them, reaching the Holy Land was not possible at all, so for their full life, but still they got some access to it. And so what I want to stress today is that this type of anticipation of the experience of traveling to a destination is in itself a type of experience. And so we should, or we might take it more seriously. And thanks to digital technologies, it's becoming a really inspiring experience. So basically, as a traveler, as a tourist traveling to a place, a major driver, especially for cultural travelers, is to be and live like the locals at the destination. So people want to travel to Switzerland because, in a sense, they want to experience being Swiss. They want to experience the Swissness. And the same can be said for Italy, for India, and all other places. So that's very important. So it's not just to see the place, but to live as a person there. So the different levels of experience, there's the sea, the tourist gaze, if you like. And we have seen a major diffusion of platforms, video platforms, and definitely it's a great opportunity to present also culture of target destination. We want to taste the place, and it's still possible. It's possible to anticipate the experience, to cook like it is used in a place, to buy local ingredients, to have them shipped, and to enjoy different foods, to smell. And within the e-commerce fashion world, perfumes didn't reduce at all their sales, but they increased dramatically during the pandemic. To dress and touch objects like people do in a place. And we have seen also a major increase of e-commerce within the fashion sector. To listen music and even live events, it is still possible thanks to digital technologies, etc. So it's really time, I think, not just to cry or to be sad because we cannot travel or we cannot invite people traveling, but it's really to be creative and start moving what we can move. And here I propose a framework which presents 5 main areas of intervention for digital media or information communication technologies. It's not a very creative framework, and so I've named it after the first 5 letters of the alphabet. So it's something you might remember quite easily. So A stands for access. So we can provide high quality, top quality of information, especially for cultural tourism. The quality of information, the quality of narratives being presented is crucial. It's not just providing some information. It should be high quality. It should be clearly localized in a way that the target audiences can get an understanding of the local culture or cultures. So here, it's super important to make sure that we care for high quality communication. It's very important, like I was saying, that we integrate within our communication of tourism, also music, for instance. So it's not just thinking of landscapes, but also of soundscapes. And nowadays, here you can access a report we have done about the countries being members of the European Travel Commission. As you can see, the quality and the quantity and the multimedia depth of soundscapes being provided by national tourism offices has a huge, a great room for improvement. So it's really important to say, how can I help people to start listening to the music of the place? How can I help people to start accessing the tastes of the place? Here is a very recent report we have done about how information about food and gastronomy is provided. And then, of course, provided it's possible to reach a place, there's the great opportunity being provided by digital technologies to enrich the experience while there, and especially it has a lot to do with augmented reality. So, of course, while you are at the destination, you don't want to watch your small screen, but still you are bringing it with you, and that could provide or project additional information layers which help you to make the best, to be able to interpret and to understand the place, also to integrate different narratives. So in many cases, they're contested heritage, and it's important to provide different views and perspectives on the same heritage attraction. Gamification is another element which is very important, like Dimitrios was stressing a few minutes ago. Here you see 2 or 3 applications. One is the application in Cluny in France, which used to be a major place for that was religious. A religious attraction, but in the end of the 18th century, that has been demolished almost completely during the French, immediately after the French Revolution. And nowadays, it's still anyway possible to get a sense of how it might have looked like centuries ago. But here I want to show you a few seconds of this sound chart. So digital technologies provide great opportunities for us to be creative. So here, basically, deaf people cannot hear music, but through a well-engineered shirt, you can offer them the possibility of getting a certain access or a certain experience, substitution experience of it. So basically this shirt provides through vibrations a similar experience you might have while attending a concert.
This is how it works. Microphones all over the stage cover the different types of instruments. A software converts the sound into data and sends it to the shirt, where 16 vibration motors pulsate with the intensity of the music.
Okay, and here is the Vivino Mobile App, which is a kind of augmented reality application. You take a picture of a wine label, and the system will provide additional information about it. And this type of enriching of experience you might do, for instance, you might taste French wines, even if you are in Switzerland and elsewhere. So that kind of anticipation or enriching can provide and add major additional elements which are highly relevant for cultural travelers. So A, B, C, D, E. So A, access, B, better, C, connect. So that's very important. Every real experience helps us to get connected with something. So experiencing means to creating bonds or connections. And here in the cultural domain, the connections are between visitors and locals. That's very important. There is no culture without human beings. So cultural tourists, they want to meet locals to have an understanding of their living style. Visitors with heritage, but also more and more locals with their own heritage. So also within tourism, we should more and more include locals within our, let's say, thoughts and within our everyday practices and strategies to take decisions. So a few elements, for instance, we recently launched a major mobile app and website, which is that provides the largest database about Indonesian batik, providing due credits to also Indian batik, of course. And for instance, in the mobile app, we have added an artificial intelligence tool, which gives you the possibility of automatically recognize some motifs of batik and provides additional information about the philosophy behind them, their meanings, and the practices of wearing such motifs. And this is something you can start doing without being in Indonesia, without traveling there, and which can be used and is being used extensively within the country itself. It has been rolled out in English and in the Indonesian language in order to support a better understanding by young generations about the batik tradition. Batik has been registered by UNESCO as intangible cultural heritage in 2008. There's also certain type of gamification also within the SAT. This is another activity we did in Africa. Is a WACI, World Heritage Awareness Campaign for youth in Southern African Development Community. So the countries, all the countries in the southern part of the African continent, and which is it's a mobile app which provides a game through which you test yourself about how much you know about the World Heritage sites in those countries in the SADC region, and it has been used in order to select the junior ministers of tourism within the region. Digital media should not be used only to anticipate or to enrich experiences or to provide connections, but they should be used also to understand the experiences others are having at the destination. So here, for instance, you see a research we have done. We have done also about Lalibela Rock, as I was mentioning before, in Ethiopia and in several other places. So interpreting what people are saying and about their personal experiences at a destination so that you can refine or better tune your offer, your touristic offers, in order to attune it to what is actually being experienced by travelers. So it's not just bug fixing or solving problem. It's really to rethink the experience, the way travelers are living it. We have done quite a bit of activities in the field of connecting people with heritage which is under risk due to natural hazards or due to violent extremism. And there the goal is really to first understand that this is still part of our heritage and is using digital leveraging on, in this case, social media in order to help people be more aware and start studying and understanding and addressing that issue. That has been done in collaboration with UNESCO. Letter D is for this intermediate. I'm not going in depth here, but is basically helping local communities to get in touch, or travelers or prospects to get in touch with local communities in a way that, like what Xavier was suggesting and stressing, in a way that the local communities can really get a reasonable profit out of tourism activities. And to avoid that most of the money, especially for emerging destinations in developing or emerging countries, not most of the money do not remain somewhere within the intermediators. The last letter of the ABCDE framework stands for educate. And I think digital technologies provide major opportunities. Most of us within the universities, we had this digital transformation due to COVID to move all the activities or most activities online. But of course, that was possible before and will remain possible for the future. And specifically addressing the issue and the peculiarities of the workforce in hospitality and tourism, I think MOOCs, so massive open online courses, might help to address their needs. We launched several years ago the first MOOC on e-tourism communication perspectives, and since then we have rolled out several other massive open online courses, especially in collaboration with colleagues from the French Sorbonne University and other colleagues. And here is the newest MOOC we are preparing right now, which will be released on May 24th this year. It's already open for registration and will be offered both in English and in the Arabic language on tourism management at UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So give me a second, I will share again with the computer sounds a last 90 seconds video, and I'm done.
Recently, information and communication technologies are everywhere, with the diffusion of smartphones and the consequent experience and expectation of being always on. But how can this enhance heritage and sustainable tourism? Well, it's as simple as ABCDE. They enlarge access, providing quality information about heritage places and support for those who want to visit them. E-tourism enriches their experiences with augmented reality, photos, videos, informal learning, and gamification. ICTs connect locals, visitors, and the heritage, for instance through digital storytelling or awareness campaigns. They help disintermediate relationships between prospects and travellers on the one side and tourism hospitality players on the other, ensuring that local communities can really benefit and that tourism is sustainable. Finally, ICTs can educate tourism operators in the field with the flexibility of e-learning, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. In these ways, ICTs can be so important to promote sustainable tourism and heritage. To find out more, go to our website.
Okay, so thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Professor Cantoni, for your valuable thoughts and insights. And we surely cannot deny the fact that ICT has a major role to play in enriching visitor experience of our heritage sites, and that digital media has become the new normal now. With this, we have come to the end of our plenary session 2. Thank you once again, Professor Cantoni. It's very pleasure being with us. Now, I hand over the plenary session 3 to Mr. Shillong.